I love this. It is literally the middle of December. It is windy, 55 degrees. It's like a spring day out here. It's like, but of course, blame global warming, blame whatever you want. And it's like, I'm sure, our caveman ancestors didn't care about global warming when the ice caps finally started, or the massive glaciers that were running across half this continent suddenly melted. But well, that's me. All right. No, I wanted to pop on here this morning because get ready for this. Somebody puts up an artwork picture of Joe Martin on, dressed as, the fugitive doctor, or whatever, however name you want to call her. But she's mainly known as the fugitive doctor because she first appeared in Fugitive of the Jadoon. Now, like I said, I myself was hopefully saying, okay, they're lending credence to the Series 6B thing, and that this, doctor must have been between Troughton and Pertwee, because then you could say, okay, we never really saw, was that was a forced regeneration or whatever, however you define it. And somebody, I love this, just callously types, "No, I do not want to see that abomination ever again." And I'm like, well, I got into an argument about this with somebody one day, and they used, a lot less polite terms, but I'm like, I'm dying laughing because then they reverted to this. Get ready, this is hilarious. At least, Moffat and RTD never tried to change the canon by shoehorning or putting other doctors in the lineup, and I'm like, and I just kind of like, my brain froze, because I'm like, did you just forget that not too long ago, circa 2013, that the previous showrunner shoehorned in another doctor, the War Doctor? And I'm like, look, as much as I love John Hurt, and as much as I love, the War Doctor and all that, and I'm like, Paul McGann was sitting there with the phone waiting to ring, and they kissed him off with a 7-minute episode. The only time Paul McGann got to be the Doctor on screen was in the 96 movie. And even though they did later accept this as part of the regular canon, especially when they moved him into Big Finish, and trust me, you gotta listen to some of the Eighth Doctor stuff on Big Finish. And yeah, Moffat made the Doctor a bigamist. You're right. He was running around marrying everybody, just about. Thought for a second there we're going to find out he married Caitlyn Jenner, but which would have been an interesting ceremony. But it's like, the fact is, right there you show me your bias. It was perfectly okay to do this with another showrunner. It was perfectly okay to do this with another, doctor. But when you do something with Jodie and Chibnall, it's wrong. And I even wrote this in the thing, and they're like, what? I said, you forgot about the War Doctor. And I go, and by the way, that means Philip Hinchcliffe, created Abominations back in the day. And they're like, huh? I'm like, before you sat down and typed this, novel out that you called a comment or a reply, I was like, did you even do the least bit of research? They're like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, because it's not the first time it's happened. And I'm getting sick and tired of this shit. It's like, do a little research, do a little thinking, do a little digging. There's a lot of ideas that this show has done in the modern era that have been done before. It's not like, come on, you're pulling back on 58 years of history, between, the visual stuff, your series, then you had the movie, and then you had your comics, then you had the Cushing movies are up there. And it's like, this show has done just about everything you can do. It's just a matter of finding a different way to do it. I see a lot of people forget one of the things they taught me when I was in modern novel and all that everything boils down to, and please forgive my use of the pronouns, but this is the way I learned it. Okay, it was man versus man, man versus nature, man versus himself. Or that's what it breaks down to, or something like that. It's like there's only so many ways you could retell that story. But I'm like, oh man, it's kind of like Hollywood. It's like, are there any new movies coming out, or is everything going to be a remake or a reboot now? Like I said, I had my opinions about The Vanquishers. I only gave it a 6 out of 10. But look at the other great episodes that were before that. Village of the Angels knocked people on their ass, yet it had an audience appreciation rating that was so low. And by the way, trivia fact, and I love the fact Trilby brought this up. One of the lowest audience, matter of fact, it had the lowest of its season. The lowest AI was Blink, which, everybody talks about. It's an amazing episode. But guess what? According to the Audience Appreciation Index, it sucked. And I'm like, what? Like, also, I think it was one of the lowest rated of the season. And it's like, you see, that's what I mean. You can't really base anything off ratings numbers. Especially not anymore when you have streaming services and all that running around. Because everybody's always saying, it was the lowest rated series of the entire thing. It's like, you do realize there were episodes, series, and all that of Doctor Who back in the 80s that were lower rated than most of the episodes that aired this season. But, oh, come on. You don't like Blink? Okay, I like Blink. And it's like, back when the Weeping Angels almost made sense, and then they... that's what I mean. They're already someone just said, I wonder if they'll hate RTD. They've already started on RTD. From what I've heard and understood, I think Nard Kotick, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I think the Bully already said if the next, and I forgive me, I'm paraphrasing here. It's like, if the next Doctor isn't a straight white male, then it's showing that the show's woke or PC or some shit like that. I'm like, so let me get this straight. You've already laid down your terms, and you've already explained to me why you have a problem with the last 3 series. Because the latest Doctor didn't have the twig and berries, and I love how everybody's jumping on the Thasman bandwagon, and I'm like, well, folks, yeah, you could interpret that one last scene in The Vanquishers as that, or you could interpret it as like, oh, I don't know, 2 friends who hadn't seen each other in 3 years. Like that's why I love about it. It's open to interpretation. Hey, they may go that route, and I say, hey, let them. Why not? There's many other series who have done it. I know. I've got to get around to doing some news videos again. I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm spending too much time on Fallout. Plus, I've been trying to... I'm finally finally in sight on Chapter 5 of Murder on the Chatannu, and it's like, what happened was I explained to the guys the other night, I said, I really apologize for taking this long, but we had a lot of stuff going on in the family. No, I'm not going into that story about Ingrid Oliver. Like I said, I'm not carrying that grudge forever. And like I said, I wasn't in the wrong in any way, so I don't even know why I apologize, because she blocked me before she even heard it. And that's a long story. And like I made a joke that, I didn't even say anything dirty. I implied something apparently, and that was enough. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And I was hoping, she'd have a sense of humor, and she didn't, as I found out. Because next thing you know, I've got her and her fans, throwing shit down on me for doing nothing anyone else would have done. Because apparently, all she did was, at that time, my profile picture told it all. I was a middle-aged white male, and I said something that she felt, she interpreted as inappropriate, and therefore I became crucified. I'm not kidding. I've walked away from it and left it behind. Like I said, there's no point wasting your time on anger. Like I said, this is a person who's supposed to represent the show. Yeah. How come you haven't appeared again? I wonder if you treated the executive producers and other people on set the same way you treated me. Okay, just a little conjecture. But like I said, it's gotten, well, it's been silly for a long time, but now you're openly calling Joe Martin's doctor an abomination. Okay, then that means the war doctor's an abomination. And it's like, how do we define abomination? And like I said, folks, now that the series is wound up and all that, when we get back into the new year, I'm going to try to get back into making regular news videos. It's just, I wanted to share some thoughts and opinions here to try to stay in touch, stay in contact with y'all, because, like I said, I've been really, really busy in the afternoons, and after work, I usually just go, I'm not kidding, it's just, yeah, she is. She's very talented. Yeah, like I said, I agree with you. They could be, but like I said, until we see that, because they've done it before with a doctor, where they've set up a romantic storyline, then why is it wrong now? It's like it's become kind of like a thing since Paul McGann snogged, Grace at the, at the end of that movie, or the Eighth Doctor, I mean. So, well, I'm going to get on out of here, folks. I have got to run into work. So, it could be that too. Yeah, why not? They've been everything else. They've been misogynists. Like somebody brought up Doctor Who Man in the comments, by the way, the other day, and I'm like, they should bring him back because this was shit. And I'm like, I wouldn't side with a man who demonstrated to me to be a bigoted, misogynist, homophobe. Because that's exactly why you don't see Doctor Who Man on this channel anymore. The things that he talked to me about in private, like I said, and then when I confronted him on it, I didn't do what he wanted. He stormed off like a child, with his bottom lip stuck out and, trumpeting and stomping his feet, just like one of his little disciples did, and that's a whole other story. We won't go into that. So take care of yourself, folks. I got to get into the work, so have a good one. Please be kind to one another, and, when somebody does something that angers you on the internet, do what I do. Sit down, wait at least an hour, and really think about what they said for your reply. Otherwise, you may throw out a bonehead line like that. The doctor's an abomination. Don't do that stuff. Take care, everyone. I'll see you all on the flip side. Have a great day.